Well, first of all, welcome to Birmingham. And I spoke at last year's Lib Dem conference as a speaker at this year's Tory conference, and I look forward to Labour making its way to Birmingham rather than to Manchester, so I'm still working on those powers that be. There were also quite a number of my colleagues who, quite frankly, were beginning to question my sanity when they read that I was speaking at Bruges. I think it's worth facing up to this. Is if we in politics go on talking within our own little bubbles to each other, with a whole bunch of people who agree with each other, it may make you feel terribly comfortable, but it doesn't take you any further. So, as far as I'm concerned, there is no point. The second thing is that the people who are probably most guilty of not daring to think the unthinkable are the politicians themselves. One of the last things my late husband, Derek Scott, did before he died was chair the Wolfson Prize on what would be practically involved in leaving the euro. Something as fundamental as does a government in the face of enormous crisis actually make plans and be prepared to talk about what it would be like if it happened, I would have thought was the responsibility of any government. And the fact that it needed to require the private sector to do this said something about the nature of the political debate. The next question is, can the world change? Yes, the world can change enormously, and not necessarily always for the worse. And I always had this little imaginary conversation with one of my predecessors, who was MP for Birmingham Edgbaston, a man called Neville Chamberlain, who famously came back from Munich in 1938 with a little piece of paper. And I had this imaginary conversation of saying to Neville, in 1997, you see people represented by a woman, a socialist, and one born near Munich, but don't worry, it's all democratic. So, words can change, but it's the politician's responsibility then to respond to the notion of those changes. And what I would like to really challenge everyone here today is look at the world as it is now, and then make up their mind whether the political institutions which try to work with that are still appropriate and the right ones. I want to look at three areas which are being brought up by. One is the legality of things, and it was the question about the Eurozone, that of course once you leave, you can't leave. It's the same about the European Union. The notion is, of course, you've got contractual obligations. Well, of course you've got contractual obligations, but it's the politicians who draw up the legal framework within which you operate. And I just want to share a little anecdote with you. One of my great regrets during the Lisbon negotiations was there was a huge move that became the Lisbon Treaty to include a clause which said any country that failed to verify and ratify that treaty within 2 years should be invited to leave. And of course that was around 2002 when everybody assumed that the first country which would have a problem with ratification within 2 years would be the Brits. And therefore such a clause would hold the gun to the head of the Brits to say get on with it. As it happened, it was the Frenchies in there. As it happened, it was the Dutchies in there and the Irishes in there. So life changes in politics, and for politicians to say, well, there's an inalienable legal framework, my answer is, well, I thought I was elected as a legislator, so therefore I provide the legal framework, so could you kindly not tell me there's a legal framework which can be changed? The second one is, it's about the debate, and I hear it again in the, I think it was an interview with William Hague in defense of the European Union when he said, of course, we benefit from the common market and the single market. To which I say, when we have debate about Europe, the definition of the construct is more elusive than the definition of the unicorn. Because if you now start talking about the common market is good for us, that's actually very different from the kind of deep political integration within the Eurozone area we are going to speak. And that's forgotten. And the third one, and I really have to ask you to go out of, because this is genuinely in England a problem, this notion that the rest of the 26 European Union states are divinely, blessedly content with the political structure they live in, and it's only the Brits who've got slight problems, is absolutely wrong. There's virtually every country you go to. There's deep frustration, The reasons for those frustrations tends to vary between whether you're a large country or a small country, whether you feel you can do something about it. A lot of the small ones actually feel they have no choice. And it is unarguable that when Britain joined in 1973, we did deprive every other country in Europe to have a choice of the nature of relationship it has with its neighbours. There's only one show in town. And when we talk about us, the UK and Europe, I just want to leave you with a slightly disturbing thought, or at least I find it disturbing. If President Barroso's notion of this federation of nation states takes great traction, and it's one which I can see must be very attractive to some of the poor countries, I would actually find it quite difficult for someone like Angela Merkel in Germany not to have a referendum on that. So there may well be things happening within the rest of Europe in a way which we haven't thought. I would also urge you to start thinking seriously about the Scottish referendum. It is by no means a foregone conclusion that this will reduce in a no vote. Just imagine in 2014, you have a yes vote in Scotland, and at that stage, the United Kingdom is a diminished force in terms of its negotiations. Scotland may have to apply and so on, but the dynamics change. So anybody who seriously needs to think about the future of Europe, the euro, and the place of the nation state in that, I think needs to account the variable geometry, needs to take into account that I, for one, don't think the Eurozone crisis has in any way been resolved. I think it has simply been delayed. And the notion that one country's actions will be seen in isolation is a mistaken one. I think once something gives, either within one of the Euro countries or one of the current memberships, I think the whole geometry of the relationship will change. And we ought to at least allow ourselves to start thinking about it.